saying why CCNA and CCNP get job? Why CCNA is not sufficient? Let's say in the interview, I am the interviewer. I am going to ask you like on one PC, even on your PC, in the browser I have typed www.google.com. I have typed www.google.com and your PC is connected to internet through broadband router, let's say, right? Your ISP is Airtel. Can you tell me the all process step by step? This is the PC
Sir,
with MAC A, IP address, let's say 10.0.0.1/8. Can you tell me all the processes step by step?
first it will resolve IP address from DNS server.
How? First it will resolve DNS,
IP. Yeah.
IP, IP address, right? Now see
Yes.
how many questions I am going to ask you from here and how many questions you are answering. First of all, resolve IP. You said resolve IP. Your PC is going to resolve IP. Now I am going to ask you how PC is going to resolve IP.
From DNS server.
DNS server. Now I am going to ask you what is DNS server.
It helps to provide the exact IP address of the domain name. When we request a
Is
www
it a protocol?
yes domain name system,
Is it a server or protocol?
it acts like both server as well as
Both.
protocol.
Very good. Right? The protocol also and a database also which carry IP with domain name. Now, how your PC will get to know about the DNS server? Who is DNS server? Where is DNS server? What is the IP address of DNS server?
It will be configured already.
Who will configure?
Network administrator.
Either we can configure manually or we can set up the DHCP. Correct?
DHCP will provide P. Yeah, DHCP.
DHCP server not only provide IP address and subnet mask, it can provide gateway also, it can provide DNS server IP also, right?
Yeah, yes.
So what will happen if my DNS server is down? Or before that, I ask you how my machine will get to know about the DNS server. So you said we will configure IP of DNS server to the machine, right? Now I am asking DNS is a TCP based protocol or UDP based protocol? Which protocol it uses? First of all,
UDP.
DNS works at which layer?
Layer 1.
Layer 1 or layer
Application layer.
7?
Application layer.
Application layer? That means my machine is going to generate any DNS message at application layer. Which type of message my machine will generate?
STP.
No. First my machine will generate DNS query message. Right? Now I am asking you DNS query is going to be TCP based or UDP based?
UDP based.
DNS protocol uses which protocol at transport layer?
UDP.
It uses both TCP and UDP. Now I am asking you when DNS will use UDP protocol, when DNS will use TCP protocol. You are not able to answer, right?
Yeah, when there we need to have the flow control of information, then we use TCP.
What is flow control of information?
Making a TCP connection before.
Brother, your answer, first of all, your answer should be very clear and crystal.
Okay.
There is no any concept of flow control over here.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right? So here is the question which you are not able to answer. The second question I am going to ask you over here is, what will happen if the DNS server is down?
Now the PC cannot resolve IP address of the exact domain name.
What we have to do here? How to resolve, how to fix this issue? This is the issue in the network. Users are complaining that we are not able to access the Google server. You have verified that DNS server is down. What is the another option? How you will fix it?
Maybe the IP address is not perfectly configured in the DNS server. So I need to check the DNS server IP address whether configured successfully or not.
Okay, for an example, DNS server IP address is 100.1.1, and on this DNS server there is no any entry for this domain name. Let's say I'm going to access www.pmnet.com in the browser, right? DNS server IP address is 100.1.1.1, but on this DNS server entry is not available for pmnetworking.com. Then what will happen?
Then it will cannot resolve IP address of a PM network.
So what is the solution? How you will fix this issue?
We will add manually the PM networking domain IP address in the DNS server.
Second thing, a space is not available to create new entry. A space is not available on server.
Then no, sir. I don't know. I do not know.
Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Where CCNP is needed. So guys, DNS uses both TCP and UDP. You know, there are 14 root DNS server in the entire world, which carry the entire database. So here I am going to tell to my DNS server about the root DNS server, whose IP address is 8.8.8.8. Now my DNS server is going to generate a DNS query for root DNS server, and that will be TCP based. That will be TCP based. Another thing, let's say machine have resolved the IP address. Where my machine is going to store that information? Machine have resolved the IP address of google.com, and for an example the IP address is 100.1.1.1. My machine have resolved the IP address of DNS server. First step, resolve IP root DNS. Machine resolve the IP address. What is the next step? Got the IP address which is 100.1.1.1. What is the next step?
Then we use HTTP connection like TCP connection to establish three-way handshake
My
from the
machine is
server.
going to now establish TCP
connection.
connection. You know about SSL connection?
Secure. Yes, sir. Tunnel, creating a secure tunnel.
So will there SSL connection also?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that. First, which connection will establish? TCP connection or SSL connection?
TCP connection.
There
Next,
is no any
SSL.
concept of security SSL in the CCNA, right?
Yes, sir.
There is no any topic like SSL in CCNA. Another thing, let's talk about the TCP only. Okay, my machine is going to establish TCP connection. So what my machine will do? Which type of message my machine will generate?
Sync message.
What is SYN?
Where sync bit will be on. That TCP header where sync bit will be on.
TCP header with SYN bit on?
Yeah.
SYN message? What will be
Sync
the
up.
source port number in the SYN message?
Random port number.
1025. What will be the destination port number?
The specific port number of the HTTP port number 80.
443 for an example.
HTTPS. Okay.
What will be the other information in the TCP header?
So,
In the SYN message, what will be the other information?
the information that contains TCP header, this all will be there.
Sorry?
Source port, destination port, flags,
Source port and destination port is already there.
flag,
Flag, how many flags are there?
8 types of flag.
Tell me the name of each.
Sync flag, where sync bit is on, hug flag, reset flag, push flag,
What is the use of reset flag?
to reset the connection.
Reset the connection.
Here, yes,
Which device will reset the connection?
the the device that established TCP connection will reset the connection if any error
No,
occurs. Okay.
no. When guys reset flag will used? If you are hitting on a particular port number and if that port number is not enabled, not working, that machine is going to send reset bit on TCP header. That is called reset message. What about the other flags?
CWR flag, ECN flag,
What
push
is the use
flag,
of ECN flag?
error notification. When there is congestion, it will give notification.
And which protocol we are using for congestion management?
Congestion management, like, do not know, sir.
Forget about the flags also. Apart
Okay.
from the flag, what other informations will be there? Sequence number, most
Um,
important field of TCP header. What will be the sequence number in SYN message? And interviewer is not going to wait for your
yes, sir.
reply. I am expecting answer
One,
quickly.
one, one,
It will be 0,
oh, zero. Okay, okay.
right? So okay, my machine have generated the SYN message at layer 4 at transport layer.
Mm.
After that it will hand over to lower layer, network layer. At network layer multiple protocols are working, right? IPv4 is also working, IPv6 is also working, Apple Talks is also working, IPX is also there. So which encapsulator protocol will used?
Based on the DNS server resolution IP address, it will choose whether to use IPv4 or IPv6. For example, if DNS server gives IPv4 address, then it will use IPv4. Otherwise, it will use IPv6. If it gives IPv6 address, then there will be IPv6 field.
In my case it will be IPv4. And
Yes.
what are the information in IP header?
In IP header, there will be source IP address,
10
destination
dot
IP address,
10.0.0.1 destination IP.
8 dot Google server IP address, 8 dot 8 dot 8.
No, 100.1.1.1. It have resolved this IP address.
Okay, okay. 100.1.1.1.
Yes. Rest information. What will be the information? What will be the
Uh,
protocol value?
protocol value will be, it is for HTTP. One, it is an ICMP request, so it will be one.
Hey, this is not ICMP request, brother. This is SYN message.
Okay, okay, sorry. I do not know, sir. I do not know.
Right? So this is the reason why you need to learn first CCNA and CCNP. Then only you should go for job. Otherwise, you will be not able to crack the interview. You will be not able to answer. Here, protocol value will be the protocol number of TCP protocol. Which protocol hand over the actual
Yes,
payload? This SYN message
yes,
is nothing but the payload at network layer. This is called payload. Right? So payload is coming from which protocol? TCP protocol. So there will be protocol value of TCP. If
6.
EIGRP protocol is generating any message, then protocol value will be the protocol number of EIGRP 89 or 88.
88.
Right? What is the protocol number of TCP?
6.
What is the protocol number of UDP?
17.
17. So even you are able to answer whether many questions, but you know, like many people are not able to answer to these questions as well, and they are just expecting job in the industry just after learning CCNA. It is not possible. So that's why you should go for both combo. And
Yes, sir.
apart from this, you need one firewall also, CCNA plus CCNP, and then firewall is also required. After that, easily you can get job. Once you will add these all in your resume, you will start getting call for job, and you will be able to crack the interview.
Sir.
And guys, there are many more steps here. Even now we are at SYN message. You can see the very initial stage. Even the actual HTTP request is not generated by PC till now. These are the initial steps. Will this PC look up? Will this PC generate DNS query every time? If I am going to again, after 10 minutes, if I am going to again access the web page of google.com, again my machine will generate DNS query or not?
No, sorry. IP address is already there, then it will not send the query message.
Where is the IP address? Where my PC is going to store the DNS IP, like the IP address with domain name in the cache memory, right? So no. For the next time, first whenever you are accessing the website, first your machine will check their cache. If the IP address for that particular domain is not available in the cache, then only it will generate the DNS query message. So if you will, brother, learn and perform the labs, then you can crack the interview, right?
Yes, sir.
You have good knowledge of basic. That's really I appreciate. You know the right many things, but you need the detailed information of entire enterprise network. Entire enterprise network means this type of network, everything. Even here I have not connected two sites, multiple sites. There is only one side. Today maybe I will add one more side over here. So can I come to this configuration section again?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's begin. So I think my access layer switches and distribution layer switches are already configured here. So LAN brief. Yes, you can see VLANs are there, but all the ports are in default VLAN. So let me do one thing. Let me put interface E0/0 in VLAN 10 switch port access VLAN 10 and switch port mode access. Now, so interface trunk we can verify. Okay, trunk is also there. Now let me try to get IP address from the DHCP server on the PC, because I think we have already configured the DHCP IP DHCP. Not able to get IP. See, now you need to troubleshoot. So first of all, you are going to verify what DHCP server. You can, there is no any configuration on DHCP. Let me set up it. Interface F0/0 no set IP address 192.168.4.1 255.255.255.0 IP default gateway. What will be the default gateway IP? Tell me the default gateway IP address. The same configuration of last class. 4 dot
254.
not the virtual IP address which we have created with the help of HSRP
100.
100. right? And then say no IP routing. And on switch number 4, I need to place DHCP server in VLAN 40. Interface E/3 port access VLAN port access VLAN 40 port mode. Yes. And try to get after 30 seconds he can get IP. You know how DHCP works, guys? How DHCP works? How many types of message are there?
4 types: discover, offer, request, acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement. So when I am running this command here, IP DHCP, my PC will generate which message first?
Discover.
Discover IP address in discover.
It will be broadcast.
Destination IP will be broadcast.
It will be the
Yes.
And what will be the source IP?
The device IP
the sector.
address.
Hey, device don't have IP address, na?
Oh yes, sir, yes, sir. The device don't know that.
Oh yes, yes. Okay, okay. It will be blank.
Blank means
Hold.
no. Source IP is going to be 0.0.0 means unknown. 0.0.0.0 means unknown. IP DHCP. Still, I am not able to get IP address from the DHCP server. Can you tell me the troubleshooting step now? How I can troubleshoot it?
The DHCP delay agent.
There isn't.
Yeah, Linux. Check on that.
On distribution layer switch 1, let me show you. So, run interface VLAN 10. Helper address is already there. 4.1. How I will troubleshoot the issue? Tell me the step, like anything you can tell me. Anything. On access layer switch 1, what you can verify? On access layer switch 1, what you can verify?
Actually, like DHCP server is in VLAN 40.
Yes. So,
Now we have not made inter routing.
the VLAN routing is already there, na brother?
Okay, 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 sorry.
You have created the SVI. From the server, you can try to ping gateway. From the server, you can try to ping gateway 192.168.4.100. Able to ping. Which switch is the active switch for VLAN 20? Which switch is the active switch for VLAN 20? How we can verify? So, standby brief. Tell me which switch is the active switch for VLAN 40? 4.250. And which switch is the active switch for VLAN 10?
First switch.
That means configuration is correct. On the VLAN 10 interface on distribution switch 1, I have already configured the helper address. If still PC is not able to get IP, what will be the troubleshooting step? And even you can tell me one thing. What you will verify on access layer switch 1? Because your PC is connected to access layer switch 1 only. What we can verify over here on we can check MAC address table, that switch is learning MAC address of PC1 or not on 0/1 interface. So MAC address table for VLAN 10. In VLAN 10 you can see on 0/0 interface one MAC address is there. with the MAC address of PC1. So IP all. Same MAC address, guys.
Yes, sir.
It is learning. It is learning the MAC address. What you can verify on distribution layer switch 1. Okay, I need to verify that distribution layer switch 1 is learning MAC address of PC1 or not. On which interface distribution layer switch 1 will learn MAC address of PC1? On which interface distribution layer switch 1 will learn the MAC address of PC1?
E0/0.
MAC address. E0/0. E0/0, which is configured as trunk port. Is configured as trunk port. So MAC address table VLAN 10. MAC address available of PC with the same MAC address.
Yes, 6800.
That means request is, guys, reaching to this switch, distribution layer switch 1. Discover message is reaching to distribution switch 1. Now what we can verify? That distribution switch 1 will forward discover message to whom? To access layer switch 4. Now question, what will be the destination IP address in the discover message when distribution switch 1 will forward the discover message to server? What will be the destination IP? See, I have generated a discover message where source IP 0.0.0, destination IP 255.255.255.255, source MAC PC1 MAC address, destination MAC all F. It will forward to distribution switch 1. Now distribution switch 1 will forward discover message to access layer switch 4. So what will be the source IP? What will be the destination IP? What will be the source MAC? What will be the destination MAC?
Now the server DHCP server IP address will be the destination. If
Source IP
DS
will be what?
source IP address will be and one of
VLAN
the
10 interface IP address. Exit interface IP address 192.168.1.100. Destination IP 192.168.4.1. Source MAC, VLAN 10 interface MAC, destination MAC, server MAC address. Is it right, guys? Source will be 1.100 or 4.100. 4.100. The reason is distribution switch 1 will receive discover message on this interface, which is the trunk port. So there will be tag value. Tag field will be there. In the tag field, value is going to be 10. That means this traffic belongs to which VLAN?
VLAN 10.
VLAN 10. So this is VLAN 10 traffic. On the VLAN 10 interface, helper address must be configured, and helper address is already configured. Helper address is 192.168.4.1. So now distribution switch 1 is going to compare this destination IP address with routing table. We'll run command show IP route and 192.168.4.1. Is route available in the table? Yes. What is the exit interface? What is the exit interface?
VLAN 40.
Right. So source IP will be what? IP address of VLAN 40. So you can do one more thing here. You can capture this link also. You can capture this Ethernet 0/0, let's say, or on 4. I can capture 0/1. There is the capturing. Again, I am going to generate discover message. Can I discover message on this link? Yes. Here is the discover message, right?
Yes,
I
sir.
can filter it. DHCP. I am not able to filter. Okay. So source IP, destination IP. See, broadcast. Right. Source MAC. Source MAC.
0.0.0.
Who's MAC? So interface VLAN 10 root IA. Is it the MAC address of VLAN 10 interface? Source MAC. Is it the MAC address of VLAN 40 interface? Whose MAC address is this one? Is it the MAC address of PC1? I'm talking about source MAC address in the Ethernet header. I'm talking about the source MAC address in upper message. Whose MAC address is this one, guys? One more thing, one more MAC address I am going to show you here. Ethernet 0/3 interface. Slash see matching. PC1. Where is the MAC address of PC? Note MAC address of. Now tell me the source about the source MAC address over here. And guys, why destination is broadcast? And how a layer 3 device can process the broadcast message? How a layer 3 device can process the broadcast message? Still DHCP discover message is coming. Anyone have idea? Tell me at least yes or no. From where this discover message is coming on this link?
Maybe from the switch to
Switch 2.
maybe.
Okay, tell me how discover message will reach to switch number 2.
I, so for VLAN 20, uh, the switch to is the primary switch, na,
See,
sir?
don't talk about VLAN 20, either VLAN 10 or 40.
I'm telling the for VLAN 40, VLAN 40.
For VLAN 40,
Switch number 2 is the primary switch.
switch
So
2 is the
maybe
primary switch, yes.
from the switch to this message goes into the um,
So tell me which MAC address you want to verify here. Interface MAC address VLAN 40. So interface VLAN and 40 root BIA. VLAN 10. Interface Ethernet 0/3. ये रहा आपका एक टास्क, दे दूं ये टास्क में, कर लोगे? कैन यू गाइज फिक्स दिस इशू?
We have not the EVNG. Sir.
Can do it in packet tracer also, in PKT.
But this same lab cannot open on packet tracer, na?
Like you can design this lab now, only this section. Don't include this section over here.
Okay.
Help me to fix it.
Yeah, it will be better.
See, in some DHCP message, source IP and destination IP is exactly same which we have discussed, right? So guys, this is the actual DHCP message of, this is the actual discover message of PC, okay? This is actual DHCP message of PC, which PC is generating. Source IP you can see, the VLAN CAN interface IP address, destination IP address is DHCP server IP address. Source MAC, VLAN TAN interface MAC address, destination MAC, DHCP MAC address. That means DHCP discover message is reaching to this switch,
Yes, sir.
right? And why source IP address is not 4.100? Why source MAC address is 1.100? Because guys, here source on this switch, source is going to be CAN interface, right, where it is receiving the discover message. Now what will be the next step of troubleshooting? Right, we have verified that this switch is receiving the discover message, correct? This switch is receiving the discover message, but machine is not able to get IP from the DHCP server. Can I use debugging command over here on the server? Yes, you can use debugging command. On the server, I can run debug IP DHCP, debug IP DHCP server, and then packet, and now I can try to get IP from the PC on the server. There is no any message, nothing is there. That means might be possible server is not receiving the DHCP discover message. So IP ARP. Server is not receiving DHCP discover message. If switch 4 is receiving DHCP discover message but it is not forwarding to server, then how you will troubleshoot it?
So the interface is administratively on or off?
Which interface?
The servers F0/0.
Server is able to ping their gateway.
Oh, okay.
Ping 192.168.4 dot.
That's good.
IP face brief. So run section. Guys, have you created the DHCP pool here? Is port number 67 enable over here? Okay, if I want to verify that port number 67 is enable or disable, which command I can use here? Do you have idea about it? So
No, sir.
control command is not available on this router. You can check it on another router, like verify the enable port number. By default, which port number is enabled on router? By default, is there any protocol port number enabled on router? Yes, one port number is by default enabled on router, that is port number 23. Telnet port number. By default, telnet is enabled. Only one service is enabled by default, the router. On this router, you can on real devices, you will be able to run command on your router. Here in EVNG, I am using router version. Here I can show you. So, control plane. So, control plane, then host, open port. Open port. See which port number is enabled over here. 23. So in this case, in my scenario, also only port number 23 is enabled on the server. So what we need to do, we need to enable which port number, guys? Port number 67. How to enable port number 67? IP, DHCP, pool, 10. Network 192.168.1.0. 55255.255.0. Default router 192.168.1.100 and IP DHCP exclude address 192.168.1.54.53 and now I can save the configuration and now 110% PC will get IP address from. Yes or no? What was the issue? Issue was port number was not enabled, and how I have tracked the message on the network in the switching network by checking MAC address table. By checking MAC address table, you can verify that if distribution switch 1 is receiving the discover message from PC1, then definitely it will learn MAC address. If switch 4 is receiving the discover message, definitely it will learn MAC address of VLAN 10 interface of distribution switch 1 on Ethernet 0/1 interface. Getting my point? Now Dora is working. Machine got the IP address. What is the IP? 192.168.1.1. Gateway IP address
100.
can I ping? It is reachable. Now from the PC, can I verify which switch is the active switch?
Now by the traceroute command.
Trace route. Trace 192.168.1.100. Where traffic is going, guys? Switch 1 or switch 2?
To the switch 1.
Which one is the?
Primary switch.
Now can this PC communicate with other VLAN users? Answer is yes, if you have configured the inter VLAN routing, and we have already configured the inter VLAN routing, means all the department can communicate with each other. Now the next task, can these end users access internet? Ping 8.8.8. And which error I am getting? Destination host unreachable. That means by default gateway don't have route, right? So let's implement routing over here first between distribution layer switch and core router. So I am going to close the console of all access layer switches, not required now. On distribution layer switch 1, first of all I am going to make layer 3 port. Right, let me use notepad for the configuration. Enable config e interface e 1/2 no switch port IP address. What subnet I am running between router 1 and distribution switch 1? 10.1.1. Let me use 1 over here. 255.255.255 dot. I will configure .1 number. Then interface E 1/3. Again here I am going to run no switch port and IP address command. No switch port and IP address. What will be the IP over here? 10.1.4.1. And we need to enable OSPF protocol on these two interfaces. So what command I will add here? IP OSPF network .2 point, and to enable OSPF IP OSPF 1 area 0. Copy. I can configure OSPF also here. I can run command router OSPF 1 and router ID 1.1.1. Right. So let me copy this command and let me paste it on distribution switch. All the commands are accepted. Right. How I can verify the OSPF configuration? So IP protocol first of all, router ID is 1.1.1, and then we can check the interfaces. So IP OSPF interface brief. OSPF is only and only enabled on which interface, guys? 1/2. Why OSPF is not enabled on 1/2? On 1/3 it is not enabled. Let me copy the. There is the mistake. Router OSPF 1 router ID.
Sir, before time you wrote the Ethernet 1/2 after the 1/3.
1/2 1/3. Fine, but
Sir, it is fine. Sir, you write one command that IP OSPF network point to point. Uh, what is the use of this command, sir? The network will be the point to point.
it will set the network type point to point.
Oh, okay.
By default, OSPF network type on broadcast link is on the
But
Ethernet link is broadcast.
sir, Ethernet link is broadcast, and point to point network will be implemented on the serial link.
No, between the router, always network type should be point to point because DR and BDR is not required there. But by default, DR and BDR election will happen on the Ethernet link. So that's why I have set network type point to point.
Okay.
And now you can see OSPF is enabled on both the. Now let me
Yes.
configure distribution switch 2. Distribution switch. Router ID I am going to make it 2.2.2. And IP on Ethernet 1/2 is going to be what? Subnet over here. 1 is here, 4 is. Pipe dot command is going on Ethernet 1/1 1/1 my copy the all good. So IP protocol router ID 2.2.2 and so IP OSPF interface brief. OSPF is enabled on both interfaces. You can see area, process ID, cost, and now I need to configure router 1 and router 2. The reason why I'm not talking about OSPF is why I'm expecting you already know the OSPF protocol. So on router number 1 F0/0, here router ID I'm going to make it, let's say 10.10.10.10. Interface F0/0. IP address is going to be 1.2 over here. Work type is fine. Yeah, is also fine. And another interface is F2/0, where IP address is going to be 5.2. 5. Copy. Command is rejected. No switch port command is. Time you can see all the commands are accepted. So IP OSPF interface brief. OSPF is enabled on both interfaces. Neighbor is down. Neighbor is down. The reason, guys, no set command is required here. No set on both the interface. Copy. Then I am going. Now OSPF neighborship will come up. So IP OSPF neighbor is up. So IP OSPF interface brief. Right, both command you can. Neighbor is on router number 2 F. Here router ID I am going to make 20.20.20.20.20. IP on fast Ethernet 0/0 is going to be dot, and IP address on F2/0 is going to be 3 dot. Copy. All good. So IP protocol router ID 20.20.20.20. So IP OSPF interface brief done, and so IP OSPF neighbor. We have OSPF neighborship between router 2 and distribution layer switch 2. Now I don't have OSPF neighborship between distribution switch 1 and router 2. How you will? Sorry. The reason is, guys, here IP actually 5.0 is not required. 5.0 is not required, or here I can make it 4.0 submit. Think 4.0 phase F2/0. Phase config T phase as 0 dash 10.1.4.255.255.255 dot. Now so IP OSPF is in access start state. Wait for some time. Now you can see host name. Write the config. Router number 1 also I am going to save the config. R1. May I know the next step of configuration here, guys? On router number 1, I should have all the LAN subnet. All these subnets should be there. The routing table of router 1, right?
Yes, sir.
How I will forward these all subnet the router from distribution layer switches. Right now, so IP OSPF route. So IP route OSPF for an OSPF. Only the WAN link, like link between router and distribution layer switches are there. Even I don't need these subnets. I have to filter these subnets, right? I'm going to tell you how you can filter it. But first, how I will make reachability from router to internal subnet. Simply what we can do, guys, we can enable OSPF on all the VLAN interfaces on all the SBIs. Yes or no? On distribution switch 1, so IP OSPF interface brief. OSPF is only enabled on Ethernet 1x2 and 1x3. OSPF is not enabled on SBI interface, right? So IP interface brief. On these all interfaces, we have to enable OSPF, correct? Am I right?
Sir, it's mean you have to advertise this.
Yes, we have to advertise these fixes, na?
Yes, sir.
Let's say there are lots of router at code layer, 10 number of routers. So how those all routers will get internal subnet? I have to advertise this subnet in OSPF,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
right? To advertise the subnet, what command I can use? Interface range, VLAN 10. Simply we can enable OSPF on the interfaces. VLAN 20, VLAN 30,
Third.
and VLAN
Okay.
IP OSPF. Work I can say broadcast, then IP OSPF one area. Now
Sir, what is the use of this command IPOSPF network broadcast?
here on the LAN interfaces I have set network type broadcast. And by default OSPF network type is broadcast only. You can ignore that command also. Now you can see OSPF is enabled on all the interfaces and waiting for DR election. Now let me take you to router 1 and let me see the routing table. See guys, R1 is receiving these all prefixes from which router? From 10.1.1.1 from distribution switch 1. It is not receiving from distribution switch 2. Let me advertise these all subnet on distribution. Also, command I am going to IP OSPF one area. Now let's save the configuration of one. Save the configuration of switch. Now on router number 1 you can run command so IP OSPF. Now router 1 is performing load balancing. Right, from both the distribution switch it is receiving the route internal subnet. On router number 2 also you can verify. So IP route OSPF. OSPF. Done. Now guys, here tell me for these two subnets, for upper those two subnets, which switch is the primary switch? Is the primary switch, and for these two prefixes this switch is the primary switch. Yes or no? Active switch,
Yes, sir.
right? So upper two prefixes should be in the routing table of router 1 via distribution switch 1, and lower two prefixes should be here in the routing table of router 1 via distribution. So here you can configure what? Path menu. First of all, one thing, tell me one thing. If I want to make this path as a best path, what I can do in OSPF? We can increase some cost over here or we can decrease some cost over here. By default
Yes,
cost
sir.
is same, that's why it is performing load balancing.
Yeah.
So by manipulating the cost we can manipulate the path.
Yes, we can prioritize that path.
Yes. First of all, there are some unnecessary prefixes in the routing table of router. Like on router number 1, you can see these two. These two are unnecessary prefixes. And even like these two, I can have lots of unnecessary prefixes. I need only these prefixes. How to filter all unwanted prefixes? With the help of route filtering, I can create one access list number 10, then permit 192.168.0.0 while karma 0.0.255. You know this router OSPF 1 and distribute list number 10 direction in. Now so IP route OSPF. Now you can see the routing table of.
Sir, please explain these commands you just tried.
There is route filtering in OSPF, brother. Route filtering of OSPF, you don't need to learn it in CCNA. You can ignore it. Right? See this subnet, guys. For an example, 10.1.5.0. Should router 1 install, not this one, this one. Should router 1 install this prefix in the routing table? No, na.
No, sir. No, sir.
So that's why I have filtered it. Right? So I have filtered. On router number 2 also I will do same thing. On router number 2 also, see some unwanted prefixes are there. So I will only allow then subnet access list number 10 permit. You know IP access list, access control list. Whether I've covered it or not, guys.
No.
No,
Hey,
sir. It did not cover.
we have covered the access list, brother. You already told me that.
No.
But it did
Don't
Then
not.
cover.
we covered routing only and basic concepts of networking.
Then we'll have one session for access control. Now you can see the routing table of R1 and R2 looks clear here, right?
Yes.
But from the PC1, if I am pinging 8.8.8, route is not available to default gateway. Route is not available to default gateway. So now, guys, I need one default route on all the distribution layer switches. On all distribution layer switches, I need one default route. So I have two options. Either I can configure default route on all the distribution layer switches manually, or we can advertise one default route from the router. Right? I can tell to router 1 to advertise the default route. Go to router 1 and say router OSPF 1 and default information originate. Say I'm going to tell this same thing to router number 2 also. Config T router OSPF 1 and default information originate.
Sir, what is the work of this command?
It will start advertising one default route in OSPF domain. It's show IP OSPF database. See here, the database LSA5 is there, na? How many LSA5 are there? 2. Both of the router are generating default route, right? So now your distribution layer switches will have one default route. Let's say, let me show you on distribution layer switch 1. So IP route. Earlier gateway was not set, but now gateway is 10.1.4. Right? There are two default route here coming from OSPF protocol. So now from the PC1, if I am going to ping 8.8.8, I will get request timeout error. What happened here? Why still I am getting destination host unreachable? IP. Oh. Error should be like now your default gateway have route. Now default gateway have route, it can forward traffic to router. Guys, here there are two default route. If I want to receive default route from router number 1 only, I want to configure router 1 as primary router, router 2 as secondary router. So you know what we can do? We can set matrix type 1 here while advertising the default route. On router number 1, I can add one more command, one more keyword over here, that is matrix type. Here I can say matrix type 1. Right? So router 1 will become my primary router, router 2 will become backup router. IP route. Now you can see default route is coming from R1. And when R1 will goes down, then which default route will become best? The default route which router 2 is, right? Because in database still two default routes are there. So IP OSPF database default routes are there, right? This default route is coming with matrix 1. Here we can open it in detail also, external 0.0.0.0. So you can see when 10.10.10 is advertising the default route, that time matrix type is 1. And when 20.20.20.20 is generating the default route, then matrix type is, so matrix type 1 will be always before our E1 will be always before our E2. So this is error of simulation only. Now you should get request timeout error. Can I ping now router from C1? Can I ping R1? Ping 10.1.1.2. Will this ping work? Working, right? Right, guys? So we have implemented the OSPF protocol also in the network. What is the next implementation? In OSPF, we are not going to discuss the path manipulation, right? Again, that is not the part of CCNA also, and maybe you already know the basic path manipulation. If you don't know, you can go through the path manipulation. So let's configure here what? WAN technology. IP service. IP service means WAN. Translation is required here, right? Just give me 1 minute. After that, I will just take a break of 1 minute, okay?
Okay, sir.
Actually, my eye is training. Sorry, bro.
Any question till here?
Yes.
Configuration. So on router number 1, first of all, I am going to configure IP on WAN link. On router number 1, interface F1/0 set IP address. Here I am going to configure 1.1.1.1.155 dot, then to enable NAT at outside. The NAT, first of all, you have to define which interfaces are inside, which interfaces are outside. Right? So I said this interface is outside. Outside means which is to internet, outside network. Then interface F as so set IP address on to port 3.3.1.5.2.5 dot 0. Okay. Router number 2 F1/0 IP dot 2.1 F/0. It is on ISP router. We will only configure IP addresses. ISP routers we will only configure IP addresses. Let me configure ISP1 first. Interface F0/0 set 1.1.1.1 255.255.255 dot 1 dot 1 on router number. Then exit phase F/0 set 4.4.4.2 5 dot. Well, config T1 done, right? ISP on F0/0 is going to be, guys, 2.2.2.2. IP on F2/0 3.3 dot. Name and write the configuration. Done. Now I'm going to close the console of ISP. One more commands are required. Back interface loopback 1 IP address 8.8.8.8 5.2 dot.
Sir, this ISP router is the provider's router, no, sir? So, do we
Internet service provider.
it or the provider will configure it?
Provider will configure.
Okay.
Now there should be WAN reachability. From router number 1, I should be able to ping ISP router. Ping 1.1.2. You can see I am able to ping 1.1.2. Right? Ping ISP 3.3.3.2. Ping should also work. You can see I am able to ping both the ISP from router 1. Then go to router 2 and try to ping both the ISP from router 2 also. Ping 4.4.4. You are able to ping .2.2.2. So both ISP are reachable from both the edge router, right? Now guys, can I ping 8.8.8? Let's say 8.8.8 is server connected to internet router. So can I ping 8.8.8?
It should be.
It will not work because route is not available. Ping will not work because route is not available. But now here we cannot configure even route for 8.8.8 because like 8.8.8 there are million of servers on the internet, right? So instead of
Yes.
configuring individual route, here we will configure what?
Static.
Default route, right? And there are two ISP, so I am going to configure routing route, right? Let's say this is my primary ISP and this is my secondary ISP, right? So I will configure default route with default AD value over here. I will configure default route with higher AD value. 50 IP route 0.0.0 exit interface F1/0 and next hop IP address 1.1. One more default route is required on which interface? On F3/0 and next hop IP address 3.3.3.2 and here I am going to say AD value 10. So do so run section IP route. So in the running configuration you can see two default routes are there, right? But guys, in the routing table, so IP to so IP route to 0.0.0. In the routing table there is only one default route towards ISP1, correct? If ISP1 will goes down, if I am going to down, let's say interface F1/0 says shutdown. And after that, if I will check the routing table, you can see default route is here towards which ISP? Towards ISP2. Okay.
The secondary is.
Until and unless ISP1 is up, this WAN link is up, will be forwarding traffic to ISP1. When this WAN link will goes down, it will shift the traffic to ISP2 automatically. We need to do same thing on router number 2 also. Config tree IP route 0.0.0 exit interface F3/0 next hop IP address 4.4.4. Primary default route, and let me add one secondary default route, backup default route on F1/0 2.2.2. Again here do so done.
Sir, the AD value.
Oh, AD value here I'm going to say. So done. An IP. Default routes are there, and in routing table do. Default route is there towards which ISP? Towards ISP 1. Right? So guys, now I can ping 8.8.8 from the router,
Yes.
from the WAN link. Through
Yes,
public
sir.
IP address, I can access the internet. Ping 8.8.8.8. Ping is working. And trace route 8.8.8.8. Traffic is going towards which ISP? Traffic is going towards ISP 1. But if ISP 1 will goes down, automatically traffic will shift towards ISP
2.
which is failover. Now, what is my requirement? End user should be able to access internet. So guys, always keep in mind one thing. Let me. This is public network, right?
Yes, sir.
Public, and this is
Private network.
it. So by default, private and public cannot communicate. By default, private and public network or subnet, you can say, can not communicate. The technology which we are using to make it possible is called NAT. Called NAT. NAT stands for network address translation. This is one IP service. Translation. So perform translation. Right. Still after NAT also private and public cannot communicate. But NAT is the method to make it possible. How? By translating. By translating source which is the private into the public IP address. So in NAT, first of all, we have to define which interface is inside and which interface is outside. Here we have already defined the outside interface, but I didn't define the inside interface, right? So what I am going to tell to router 1 config t interface range F/0, F2/0, and F. Okay. IP NAT. These interfaces are inside interface. Then on router number 2, face range F/0 and F2/0. IP NAT. You know how NAT will work. One router is there. The LAN user. What?
ISP.
And on the ISP, there is one well,
Server.
server. Okay. R1, my edge router, switch. Here we will use public IP address, let's say 1.1.1.1, right? And the server IP address is 1.1.1.2. Both are using public IP address. Here also I will use public IP address. Here I will use public IP address, let's say 100.1.1.1. The IP address on my router. So guys, from the router I can easily ping to server. From the router I can easily ping to server, but I have to configure what? Route, default route 0.0.0 towards ISP. I have configured this default route on my router. Now I can access the server, correct? But my LAN user cannot access the server. Here let's say IP address is 10.1.1.1. On the router my IP address is 10.1.1.1. You see, private and public. Private and public. This is my private network and this is public network. Private and public cannot communicate. How to make communication now? How to make communication now? NAT. Here we have to configure NAT. So first of all we will define that this interface is your inside interface and this interface is your outside interface. After that I have to tell to my router that brother, whenever you will receive traffic from 10.1.1.0/24 subnet on the inside interface, translate the source into what? Sorry, .0. Translate into the public IP address, right? Or I can say translate into the IP address which is running on your outside interface. Let's say this is guys 0/1 interface. This is 0/0 interface. So I can say whenever you are receiving traffic on 0/0 and if source will match from this subnet, then translate it into the IP address which is running on your interface F 0/1 interface. Now when PC1 is going to ping 8.8.8, what will be source? 10.1.1.1. What will be the destination? 1.1. Done? Right guys? It will forward to their gateway. When router will receive, router is going to translate which IP address? Source IP address or destination IP address? Source IP address, which is the private. Right? Source is matching from this subnet. Yes. So it will translate into the IP address which is running on F 0/1 100.1.1.1 and then it will forward to ISP. And when again reply will come, it is going to translate in the reply packet. What will be the source? 1.1.2 and what will be the destination? 100.1.1.1. Correct? So in the reply it is going to translate destination. Right? Router will maintain one table that is called NAT translation table. In that table it have already entry that I have translated 10.1.1.1 into 100.1.1.1. So when reply will come, then again I will translate 100.1.1.1 into 10.1.1.1. Then it will forward the reply. Point. This way NAT works. So here I have already defined the inside and outside interface. Only thing is here I have to configure NAT now. Command is IP NAT inside, right? And I am going to say match source from the access list number 10 and translate into the IP address which is running on your interface F 1 slash space one keyboard, that is overload to enable PAT. There are multiple types of NATs: static NAT, dynamic NAT, and PAT. So this is command to enable PAT. But guys, is access list exist here? No, access list is not there. So now I can create one access list. Access list number 10 permit, and here I will define my source. Source 192.168.0.0 while karma 0.0.255. All my internal subnet will match in this. Yes or no? Access list is already there. 10. So I can make it what, 100 or 20. Then I have to change it NAT configuration also. Go to this command NAT 50. Now you can try ping internet from you can ping work. Ping 8.8.8. Ping is working, right guys? Now my end user is able to access internet. Here we can even use debugging command to check the translation or show IP NAT. You can see 192.160 or 1.1 is translated into 1.1.1.1. 1.1.1. Now there are some advanced concept here when you have multiple WAN connectivity on a single router, right? How to configure NAT failover. In that case, you have to use route map and can learn these all things in CCNA. The route map, case list, prefix list, route filtering, these all are the part of. That's why I'm saying combo courses important to get. But you are going to learn the complete thing over here. Yeah, this is, whatever things here we have implemented, these all are the just basic implementation of routing protocol, switching protocol, and IP services. That's it. I didn't implement any security over here. I didn't configure any policy over here. Nothing is there. This is just connectivity. Make the connectivity between the devices. That's it.
Sir, will you take one session over net?
I will take one session over VPN only now. If I have another site like this, now what we will do here? First of all, we'll configure NAT on router number also. What we'll do? Now, for an example, there is one. There is one other side which is also connected to And you know all the ISPs are directly connected with each other. All the ISPs are directly connected with each other. So now, how to make reachability side?
You have already told VPN.
Because now see, we are going to make reachability between two private side. Now we are going to make reachability between two private side of our public network. So in that case, between your edge router, here you are going to configure what? Also you submit, can advertise it in OSPF also. OSPF is already running on my edge router, so we can follow OSPF also. After that, you are going to secure it with the help of check, right? If you have more than two sites, then you will run the DM VPN. Want to master these all things, soon one combo batch is starting from 1st of
Price now.
price is 5K plus 10K for you. For you. For the price after getting job also. Start earning.
Yes, sir. Will join.
So now it's your turn to design this lab in PKT, packet tracer, and configure it by yourself. Or if it is possible, then set up EVNG, and create the lab. Even GNS3 is also fine, guys. In GNS3 only we can not create this. That's it. Here we can use the dummy unmanageable switch. Unmanageable switches are there in GNS3 also. Happen. For an example, in GNS3, I will show you how the VPN is going to work. Let that in next class we can cover some advanced mode like the wireless programmability, automation and programmability, SDN, controller based network. So in next class we'll focus on SDN part. Okay. The two sides. And you know at each side how is the design? Similar like at each side we have same network. Just we are understanding how to make not reachability. For an example, here my internal subnet is 10.1.1.0/24. Here my internal subnet is 20.1.1.4. The public IP address over here, okay, 1.1.1.0/30. and on the internet there is one Google server also. So how my end devices will access Google server? Through NAT. And how these two LAN sites are going to communicate? Through just I am going to show you the GRE. GRE is not secure, IP secure. Config T interface loopback 1 IP address 10.1.1 255.255.255.0 space F 0/0 no set address 1.1. Face F 0 no set IP address 1.1.1 255.255.255.0 IP out 0.0.0 0/0 and 1 dot on daughter number 2 config T face loopback 1 address dot 1.1 255.255.255.0 face F 0 set 55 to figures. Let me here also I can configure one default route 0 0 slash. Finally on ISP router face F 0 slash set address dot 55.255 face F IP 525 dot. That's it. The internet. From router number 1, can I ping to router 2? Can I ping the public IP address of router 2, guys? Yes, you can see. Both the public IP addresses are reachable. Source 1.1.1. So with the help of these two public IP addresses, we are going to form here tunnel. Right? To form the tunneling interface tunnel on any virtual interface you can create. Tunnel is but the virtual interface. And here I am going to say tunnel source. Tunnel source is fast Ethernet 0/0. The IP address which is running on fast Ethernet 0 is the tunnel. And then I am saying tunnel destination. IP address of public IP address of router 2 2.2.1. Then go to router 2 and say interface tunnel. Let's say 10 here, and tunnel source again fast Ethernet 0/0. Then tunnel destination I am going to say 1.1. Now my tunnel interface will come. So IP interface brief. Tunnel interface is up, but IP is not configured here, right? IP is not there. So what we did, guys, here I have created one tunnel. P1, the name here, and is the name. Now here I am going to configure any IP address. Let's say 192.168.1.1. This side I am going to configure 192. Dot. So can both the IP address ping to each other? Yes, both the IP address can ping to each other. Reason is tunnel source and tunnel destination. Whenever exit interface is going to be tunnel interface, router will use source IP address of tunnel source, destination IP address will tunnel destination. Encapsulate one extra. First of all, let me configure the IP and the interface tunnel 1 and say IP 192.168.1.1. 255.255.255 dot router 2 interface tunnel 10 address 192 dot 255.255.255 dot. You can try to ping, check connect, ping 192 dot. You can see ping is working, right? How ping is working when I am pinging? Ping 192.168.1.2. What will be the source IP address? 192.168.1.1. And what will be the destination IP? 192.168.1. But this is in the inner header, in the actual IPv4 header. Right? So what router will do now? Router will encapsulate this with GRE header. GRE. And what will be the information in GRE header? Source IP will be the tunnel source 1.1.1.1. Destination tunnel destination 2.2.2.1. And then it will forward to ISP router. ISP router will check what? This header. ISP router will not open this header. When router 2 will receive, router 2 will say, see, okay, this is my IP address. Let me open. Let me check the protocol field and let me open the inner IP header. And when router 2 will open this header, then it will get to this is coming. This is for me. For which interface? For tunnel interface. And now here we can establish any routing protocol. Here we can configure any routing protocol for the LAN. We advertise LAN prefixes. Router OSPF. Router OSPF. 1 router ID 1.1.1. Exit interface tunnel. 1 IP OSPF 1 area. 0. Router 2. Router OSPF 1 router ID 2.2.2.2. Exit interface tunnel 10. 0. Now I am expecting OSPF neighbor C power tunnel and you can see the log message. Right? So IP OSPF. Now guys, I can advertise the LAN prefix in OSPF. Yes or no? Config T. Interface loopback 1 IP OSPF 1 area 0. Router number 2. Interface loopback 1 IP OSPF 1 area 0. All see the routing table. So IP route OSPF. Not getting fix. Router number 2. So IP OSPF. So IP route OSPF. Here I am receiving. So IP OSPF interface brief. OSPF is not enabled on LAN interface. Interface loopback 1 IP OSPF area. So this way we can exchange the LAN prefixes and now my two LAN can communicate. Ping 20.1.1 source 10.1.1. But this is not secure protocol. GRE is not secure. Your traffic is going in plain text over internet. So anyone can capture it, can see, can read your. So that's why here we are going to implement now what? Secure it. So logic behind it is VPN only. Logic behind it is VPN. Guys, there are many types of VPN that you need to learn in